So I'm Cindy York. I'm an assistant professor at Northern Illinois University, and I actually don't teach math. So I need to have a lot of our audience participation today because when I give you an example of technology, I want you to give me the example of how math can be integrated into that, okay, or how math or your IBL can utilize that technology that I'm talking about. Okay, so you guys all have to participate, and I notice there's only a couple people in the front row. And then, so anyway, who knows what Web 2.0 means?
I'm Jamie Stone, and I am a math ed professor at Black Hills State University. And now I'm supposed to say what Web 2.0 tools.
So what is Web 2.0?
Web 2.0 are, like, I consider them to be tools that are free, that are accessible on the internet.
Okay. Anybody want to expand on that a little bit? They're free, they're on the internet. Okay, one of the features of Web 2.0, I'm not going to make you work too hard, is that they're collaborative. The tools are collaborative. They help increase communication, collaboration. But yes, they're free. And then as soon as somebody likes them, they buy them and they stop being free. So Web 2.0 tools constantly come and go. What's a common Web 2.0 tool that somebody can think of just off the top of their head? Gmail, Google Docs. Google has a whole suite of Web 2.0 tools that are free that everybody can use. That's probably one of the most common ones that people think of. Any questions about the title of this? Y'all know what technology is? Y'all know what IBL is? Okay. How many of you use technology with IBL? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I got 7. I don't know how many people are in the whole room. How many of you are comfortable using technology with IBL? Is it the same 7? 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. You know, it's really slow that I'm having to sit here and count hands. What if I said, how would you rate your comfort level with technology and IBL? Oh gosh, okay. Very comfortable? Couple? Put the hands down. Okay, comfortable? Okay, I got a couple more. Uncomfortable? Okay, see, I'm going to stop doing this. Instead of doing that, I want to do this. This is polleverywhere.com. It's a free polling tool. How many of you have used clickers? It's the same thing, except it's free. Okay, so any of you have your devices with you, your telephones, your laptops, your iPads? If you do, pull them out because you're going to want to play. This poll is live right now. Nobody has answered it yet. You can use any way that you want. You can text if you have a free texting. You can submit to a website if you don't have free texting. So how do you do the texting part of it? Well, if you're very comfortable, 37607 is the phone number that you're calling to. And if you're very comfortable, you type in 222281 in the body of the text. And it'll show up here. So the first person to do it gets a bonus point. This is live. It will automatically start graphing the responses if it works. There we go. Somebody's uncomfortable. Oops, somebody's comfortable. Imagine doing this with a group of 25, 50, maybe you have more than that in your class. Poll Everywhere doesn't just do multiple choice. It does open-ended questions, does true, false, does any kind of polling that you want to do. But instead of me sitting here counting hands, I can just pop it up here really quickly. So, how would we use this with math and IBL? Remember, audience participation. Ideas? Make sure you're on the microphone.
And don't forget to say your name and where you're from.
One of the things I like to do, just to get discussion started, my name is Victor Piercy, is a student makes a statement, presents a solution, something like that. I like to have, do you agree or disagree?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you can populate all of these ahead of time. If your students had a whole list of what they think, you put them in here, and then you can pop this up, and then you have your discussions off of it. Because I can have more than one poll question going at a time, too. These will also embed into a PowerPoint if you happen to have a PowerPoint going. Anybody else have an idea of how they might want to use this in math and IBL?
So you could have an example problem that might have multiple solutions, and then you could say, which one of these graphs do you think it is the right answer? You could vote on it.
Yeah.
My name is Josiah from Omaha.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You could also do a, what questions do you have about what we were just discussing? And in the open-ended responses, they can start putting up all of their questions, and they'll see all the other questions, and they'll think, oh, well, once I see that question, I have now this question, and things like that. So it's not just multiple choice, remember that. Uh-oh, somebody thinks it's painful. Okay, this is going away now, I just want to warn you. Okay, so can you see how different that was than me raising hands and counting hands, and just different ways to do things? And that's what I really want to do, is just get the discussion flowing of what might I be able to do with technology. Now, one of my philosophies is don't use technology just because it exists. There has to be a reason for it. And I used to teach the 3 E's of it made it easier, it made it more efficient, it made it more effective, it enhanced, whatever. I don't do that anymore. Now it's what can you do that's fundamentally different because you have technology. So some of you might recognize this as a QR code. Who knows what QR stands for? Response. QR codes actually started out in manufacturing, and they'd put these on there so they could scan. It was just like a barcode. And I actually teach a class where I show you how to develop these. They can go to audio, they can go to a website. This one goes to a website. I also put the URL up there. It's a website that I continually update with resources every time I give a presentation, and I am happy if people want to say, hey, I want more resources that you can put there. So I do QR codes because a lot of people I know can just snap it with their phone, or they can go to the website. This, I'll make it a little bigger for you. I have polling and surveying tools, mind mapping tools or concept mapping tools, social bookmarking tools, blogging tools, website creation tools, collaboration, just different things. Now, remember, with Web 2.0 tools, sometimes these links die because the Web 2.0 tool goes away. So, but these are all up there if you want to explore them later. Questions so far? Okay, 2 things I want to talk about is collaboration and communication. So, collaboration. When you're constructing knowledge, which is how I think of when we're collaborating what we're doing, we're constructing knowledge, I put down 3 Web 2.0 tools that you could use. I'm going to show you Padlet first, just because it's fun and it's a new one that I hadn't seen before and I like it. Padlet allows you to create a wall. If you want to come to this Padlet wall right now and you can actually interact with it, it's live, go to that QR code. You can embed into Padlet anything you want, basically. So your students could embed formulas or solutions or whatever they want, and everybody has access to the same wall. Instead of having, I only have one whiteboard in my room, or I don't even have chalkboards, so I can't have everybody come up to the room at the same time. But they could be sitting at their individual computers or laptops or iPads, all interacting on boards. Okay, so you can make your boards as many boards as you want, as big as you want, things like that. Mine happens to have 2 URLs up there, but I did put a 1 + 1 = question mark. You know, you can put anything up here that you want. Okay, the Padlet allows you, and nobody's interacting with it right now. Okay, go ahead and try. So somebody give me an example now. What can we do with this? With math?
Okay, if you had like a touch screen, could you write up your own solutions to, for example, that problem up there and have every student write up on that touchpad, on that tablet or something, write up their own solutions, and then you have like 20 or something solutions up there? That would be great.
So I could put a big title header up there of what the problem is.
So that's how you can
And
use
then
it
you
in a math
can,
class.
so I just double clicked, and by double clicking now I have a box I can write in, or I can do whatever I want in there. They can put a URL, they can upload a file, they can take a picture. So even let's say that they don't have something with a stylus that they could write on, they could write it down, snap it with their phone, and upload it to Padlet or with their iPad or whatever. So double clicking, oh look, somebody was here. Except it's overlapping a little bit. There we go, I moved it for you. But you,
We have another question.
okay, go ahead.
I'm Regina Jackson from Auburn University. Another idea I had was probably not as much for this would be for future teachers. When you're training them with lessons and stuff, they do a lot of work on the internet. They can pull up links and lessons that they found so that others can critique them and see them.
Absolutely. And you can have individual walls. I just created one big collaboration wall for us all to play on. They can have different backgrounds. They're totally customizable any way you want. Okay, but I just wanted to show you how you and my audience can still interact with it. You know, it's not just me. I'm not in control anymore. Now I'm going back to the PowerPoint. So that's Padlet, and that was the link to that. Sorry about that. So I'm not going to show you all the Web 2.0 tools. I do have some of them listed up here that I'm not showing you. Glyphy.com, GoogleDrawing.com. You can do similar things with those. So communication is the other aspect then. Now, when I think of IBL, I start out with inquiry. I start out with asking questions, gathering info, things like that to communicate. So Diigo is a bookmarking tool. Has anybody used Diigo before? D-I-I-G-O. I got a couple. Bless you. Diigo is interesting. This is one of my Diigo pages, but I'll go to the live page. All of these that I'm showing you, you can log in with your Gmail account, with your Google account. So here's Diigo. And when I go out into the web and I find something that I like, a resource of some sort, I can bookmark it into my Diigo. It takes it into my Diigo, and it saves it for me. It can save it offline so I can read it later when I don't have internet. It can save it online as a link. But I can also tag it. So I've tagged things. Assistive technology was my tag over there on the left, but now I started tagging things with inquiry, IBL, math, things like that. Why is it useful? I can create a Diigo page for my students for whatever the subject is that I want to teach. They have access to the websites that I've already vetted, that I know are going to help them, instead of them going out to Google and finding 1,000 pages on whatever algebra equation they're looking for. I can give them the resources. They can add to those resources. They can search by tag and see what other people have done. So it doesn't just show my social, oh, I hit the microphone, my bookmarks. It shows the whole world's bookmarks, who have used Diigo, who tag it. Okay, audience interaction again. How do we use this with math? Any ideas? Uh-oh. Then I call on Dana. Okay, sorry.
You kind of, this is Josiah, again, you kind of just said it, but basically, yeah, if you're just explaining something about shell method in your calculus class, and maybe the students don't quite get it, instead of having them search the web, maybe they'll stumble upon Paul's online calculus notes, but maybe you want them to stumble upon them that faster, so you put it on your Diigo page and say, if you're having trouble with this, check out the Diigo page.
Yeah, exactly. Has anybody heard of WebQuests? It's like an online scavenger hunt, and a lot of K-12 teachers will use them, but they will go and they'll find web pages first that they want their students to go to that they know have the answer, but they don't want to just give their students the answer. So they give them a list of 10, say, websites, and the students know the answer's out there somewhere, but they're not getting lost on the web. Another idea?
Angie Hodge, another idea is if you don't want to give them the sites, you could give them a topic and have them find good sites, have them sift through material, maybe some good videos, some good graphics, good graphing tools, things like that, and they could share that with their classmates.
And they create their own library of resources. Over here, please. Second row.
Victor Piercy, as Angie was saying that, I was thinking another thing you could do is give them a bunch of, on some topic, a bunch of resources, some of which you know are good and some of which you know are bad. Ask them to evaluate them and help them develop the ability to critique the resources on their own.
Exactly. All of these are great ideas. Any other ideas? I'm happy to take more, you know. This is what this is for. Okay. So that's Diigo. There's other social bookmarking tools too. Delicious was one of them. I can't think. I'd have to go back to my website. So asking questions, that's a big part of the inquiry process. And there's a lot of tools you can use. You can use wikis, you can use blogs, you can just use a website, you can use discussion boards, anything you want. But I want to show you how you can use Blogger. The blog that I created for this presentation is iblmathandtechnology.blogspot.com. The URL's right there. If you want to go to it, you don't have to. But if you want to go to it, it will look like, I know that was really quick. You probably didn't get all that down. So I created a blog. It said, as an educator, what questions do you have about using technology with inquiry-based learning? And then I realized, well, that wasn't really what I wanted to talk about. So then I put a new question on here that says, how do you use technology with IBL and mathematics? And I have one comment on there. And as an educator, what questions do you have about using technology with IBL? And I have 2 comments on there. This is open to the world right now. You could comment on this if you wanted to. And so basically what you can do is put up a topic and then have your students start putting all their questions. So you can put up a math question, and then they start putting up all their questions. You can put up a math problem, and they start putting up all their solutions. But what it does is it tracks the history of it. That's really small. It tracks the history of it. And you can reply, and you can do sort of a threaded discussion on here if you want. But it's a blog, and it's another way to do it.
Oh, hi. My name's Carrie. I teach in Denver. I actually teach middle school. So do you have control of erasing comments?
Yes,
just
you
in
do.
Case? Okay. Just check.
You could even, you can set it up as a private blog where not the whole world doesn't have access. You can set it up so that you have approved the question before it goes up there. And yet you have all the access as administrator of that blog to do what you need to do to control your kids. Absolutely.
Matthias Kowski from Arizona State. So I only can type in whatever I can type with a keyboard, or can I usually draw and use mathematical formulas, integral signs, fractions?
On Blogger right now, it's a comment. I think you can put attachments up there as well, though.
Hi, actually,
See, this is why I need math people.
so you can do, sorry, TJ Hitchman, you can use math jacks, you can make figures in lots of different ways, and they include pretty easily.
Yeah, see, this is why I need the audience interaction, because like I said, I do the technology, I don't do the math. Anybody else have an idea of how you could use Blogger? No? Oh, got one in the back.
Jamie Stone again, Black Hills State University, and in the past, we use D2L as our online format, and one of the bad things about it is that students, once the semester is over, they lose access to the course, and so I usually use the discussion area to ask questions there and have them respond, but this fall, I'm going to a blog format, so it'll always be up there.
And a lot of universities that close their Blackboard or their course management system at the end of the semester and the students lose all those resources, you can embed these kinds of things into the course of your course, the course management system, but it's taking them out of the course management system, and this just stays. Until I delete it, it stays. And so you still have access to that. I can use this with more than one class if I want my classes to see what last semester's class did. There's just so many ways to use these things. You could do it as a reflection piece. Okay, so after class, what all did you learn from this? What did you understand? What did you not understand? I can continue that tomorrow and answer all the what you did not understand. So there's a lot of ways to use this. If you do this with an anonymous post, because I did do an anonymous post down here, you don't really know who to follow up with your students, but sometimes you want it to be anonymous so that your students don't feel uncomfortable asking questions. So it just depends on how you want to set that up. Google Forms is another Web 2.0 tool. How many of you have used Google Forms? A lot more, yeah. It starts becoming, I think it's just more, it's easier and easier than it was in the past. And I have a survey, and it's tinyurl.com/IBLmath. And this is the survey that I created. So what I'm doing here is I'm surveying you all, if you feel like answering it, just to see, what Web 2.0 tools have you used before, how comfortable are you, things like this, right? Let's switch this back to math again. What would we use this for with math and IBL?
This is Josiah again, sort of offhand, but TinyURL is a handy tool for sending out links. If you want to write something on your Blackboard, physical Blackboard, then your students can write it down instead of having to jot down a super long URL.
Thank you. Yes, a tiny URL. You'll also see it as bit.ly, bit.ly. It takes that really long URL and makes it really short. Thank you for pointing that out. And I sit here and do these things automatically sometimes and don't think about it. Okay, so anybody got a math idea of how we could use a Google form for math? Besides for collecting data? Dana.
Dana Ernst, I've used the Google form before to collect information before class about which students are ready to present and which problems they're ready to present on, so I have a snapshot of who's ready to do what when I walk in the room.
Exactly. Other ideas? Oh, now we're getting more ideas. See, one idea sparks another idea, which sparks another idea.
Regina Jackson, Auburn University. One of the ways I was thinking is we were talking about having students reflect on how they're feeling about doing the mathematics, and I think this is a great way to do reflections really quick like.
Absolutely. And the thing that's really nice is I can flip over in 3 seconds to the spreadsheet that shows me all their answers. So I can see immediately what they're answering.
We have, the classroom that I teach in has a set of iPads. And so when a student or a group gives a presentation, everybody else has their iPads out. They have the Google form that has the evaluation, and they just do it immediately. So the students get that feedback from their peers, not just me.
Great idea. I work with a lot of one-to-one iPad schools. The one I'm currently working with is 3rd grade, and there's a QR code on the wall, which I had showed you earlier, and when the students come in first thing in the morning, they snap it with their iPads, and it takes them to a website that says, have you eaten today? How are you feeling today? And their teacher can judge whether or not she needs to walk by their desk and drop a granola bar off as she's walking around the room. She does that before, or right after lunch and right after they first get here during the day. So it's a little different than math, but there's just a lot of ways you can do this. So you can send them to this using the actual website, the link, the tiny URL, or QR code. There's so many ways to get to this. Okay, so now on to discussion. I want to know how you currently use technology with IBL and mathematics, because that's what everybody else really wants to hear in here. They're tired of hearing me talk. So those of you, there were 7 of you who said, I use technology with IBL and math. It's your turn.
This isn't really Web 2.0, but
That's okay.
we have I'm going to start using this high-tech classroom where all the chairs are in pods surrounded by a big computer monitor, and they're wells so people can plug in whatever device they want, and you can put whatever they're working on, you can put on all of the monitors or some of them, all kind of flexibility. And in my course, I really want my students to be able to use Excel, and I've had a lot of trouble with that in the past. So I'm going to be using this kind of configuration to enhance the use of Excel.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that where the instructors, like this screen up here in the front of the room, I could pick group 1 or group 2, and it'll
Right,
immediately
display on all of
display it, or it'll display on all of them. Yeah, so you have that access.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I
I'm not
totally
sure
know
if
what you're talking
I was
about.
clear to everybody else in the room, but
It's really nice, and if you feel like writing a grant for a large amount of money to get a lab like that, yeah, they're fabulous.
I used the technology GeoGebra to come up with applets for my students to engage with the material and pose questions to them.
And what level students are they?
Pre-calculus.
Pre-calc, okay.
Hi, TJ Hitchman again. So it's a simpler use, but I keep a classroom blog for my More Method Euclidean Geometry class, and every day after class I just take 10 minutes and I type up the student appropriate part of my notes about what happened that day. Right. Well, I don't write down stuff like that presentation was terrible, right? But I do I could keep a record of what's been accomplished and what questions came up and what theorems got proved that day, so that the students can use that as a reference.
Because how often do you think, oh yeah, I'm going to remember to tell them this tomorrow?
Yeah, and if somebody misses a class, well, I mean, I have my own notebook, right? But if somebody misses a class, they say, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Oh man, you missed so much."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's up there, and they can all access it.
Tom Judson. I'm using Sage, a computer algebra system that's open source, and specifically Sage single cell server, which you can embed in any web page. And also you can put it on the printed page and put a QR code next to it and open up something on your iPhone. And the Sage Math Cloud is more than just a computer algebra system, because over on the side I can open up a chat window, and I'm planning on holding office hours on the Sage Math Cloud this fall.
Excellent, excellent. Just keep passing the microphone around.
He was next, but then I was trying to be fair. Okay.
We're not being fair today. I was just there's a lot of different ways. Sorry, my name is Sue Dore, and I'm at Augsburg College in Minneapolis. Hi. I was just reflecting on all the different ways I've used technology, and there's lots I need to learn. But the most effective by far for me has been a very simple one, which is students taking photographs of boards and posting them on our Moodle site or whatever, the Google Docs or whatever. I work with a lot of students with disabilities who are qualified to have note takers, and in IBL, there's a big question of what are we taking notes on? And so that has really helped solve a lot of that problem.
Yeah, and I think that the affordability of taking photos and taking videos and all of that now and being able to share that it's just making it so widespread. Absolutely.
Michael Boutros, Victor Valley. I use a free course management system, excuse me, where I use discussion boards. I actually have them turn in their homework electronically and then annotate it. And
Do you have a tablet that you write on then with a stylus to annotate?
Yeah. The last thing I started using last semester is I put summaries of what happens in class for those who couldn't make it, or if they know in advance what's going to be on class, or if they're going to miss, then they know what's going to be covered and what's.
And do you ever have your students write these summaries or these reflections of what happened that day so that their peers can read it from somebody else's perspective other than the instructor's perspective? I mean, there's so many things you can do here. I don't know, the microphone's going that way.
Two things that I've used in Dr. Hodges' calc class is Desmos.com. Some of you have heard of it. It might be like GeoGebra. I haven't played around with it too much, but it's really cool. It's online free. Any student can get to it in their web browser, and there's an iPad app. It makes graphing really nice and easy. Other thing is Google Plus Hangouts. In case you want to have a study session with your friends online after class, you don't have to be in the same physical location. And there are, like what you had where you can share a wall kind of thing, but I'm thinking there's probably better solutions than the one built into Google Plus or extensions that I've seen.
Yeah, there's a whiteboard. It's my favorite whiteboard right now on the iPad, and it's called Bayboard, B-A-I board. And if I give you the code, no matter where you are in the world, you have access to the same whiteboard as me. And so you can write on it with a stylus on your iPad. So that's Bayboard, B-A-I. And I don't sell any of these, and I'm not endorsing any of these. These are just things I've used. Bayboard is free. Yeah, yeah. So I just don't want you to think that these are the only technologies you can use for this. This was just to give you an idea and an overview. But Dana's going to make me stop talking now.
I was going to say we could take one more question.
Okay, because I was going to say you can always email me with questions if you want.
And I'm just going to hand it to the closest person.
I know.
Angie Hodgkin, and I just want to add the Google Hangouts because I was being instructor in the calculus class. I didn't really know about it, but my students used it in the IBL. We did an IBL Calc 1, Calc 2 class, and they studied that way. So for students that, you know, live far away from each other, or maybe non-traditional students that can't make it to study hours, they were still able to study in all different hours of the night and talk and actually really interact with each other. Some of them were in the math club room, some of them were at home. So I would suggest maybe, you know, picking their brains a little bit or thinking about how you could use that to get IBL to work outside of the classroom.
And you can even do online office hours with a tool like that if you want. You can record the sessions for students who couldn't make it to the office hours. There's so many different ideas here, and my only plug is the fact that I'd like to do some research on people who are doing this online, in fully online classes. So if anybody thinks, yeah, I'm doing IBL and math in an online class and you want to talk to me about it, that's my plug. Thank you.
Excellent. Let's thank Cindy one last time. Thanks.